For more on President Carter's legacy once he left office, let's bring in Yawei Liu from the Carter Center in Atlanta. He's a senior advisor on China and a political science professor at Emory University, and he joins us live from Atlanta. Professor Liu, talk about President Carter's work with Habitat for Humanity. I mean, he built thousands of homes in more than a dozen countries around the world, and that work actually continued after his brain cancer diagnosis in 2019.
Yes, President Carter was instrumental in funding the Habitat for Humanity. Since the founding of the organization, President Carter and Mrs. Carter have committed volunteering for a week every year for that organization, and they built houses here in the U.S. and all over the world. You know, after the earthquake in China, President Carter and Mrs. Carter both traveled to China to participate in the Habitat for Humanity project in the nearby county where the earthquake took place.
And it wasn't just about building homes for the needy. It was so much about raising awareness about diseases that few people had heard of, like guinea worm. He really wanted to bring attention to these neglected illnesses and diseases that primarily affect poor people in remote parts of the world.
That's exactly right. So President and Mrs. Carter founded the Carter Center back in 1982. The mission of the Carter Center is to wage peace, fight disease, and build hope. And one of the diseases the Carter Center has dedicated all its resources to eradicate is guinea worm. Well, it started the work in the late 1980s. The total case of guinea worm was about 3.5 million. Now it is down to less than 10. So it's really, in the last couple of years, it was a race between President Carter and the eradication of the worm, even though there are still a few worms left. But President Carter, and under his leadership, the Carter Center has almost completed this unprecedented historic mission of eradicating that disease.
Professor Liu, President Carter obviously spoke to countless journalists throughout his presidency and also after he left office. I was one of the people who talked to him in the 1990s. I was a young journalist at CNN back then. I was, I don't know, maybe 24, 25 years old. I was very nervous, and he was kind to me. He was so warm and generous and gracious. I'm just curious if you have any fond memories of the former president that you'd like to share with us.
Yes, very much so. I think I started working for him back in 1998. During that time, I met him almost every month, and I traveled with him to China almost 10 times. One episode I remember very vividly is at the end of a visit to China in 2009 to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the normalization of U.S.-China relations. So he called me to his suite, and he said, "Yawei, you did a good job preparing for the visit. You know, that's ganbei and cheer for the success of this meeting." So this is how President Carter treated his staff. You know, we're all his friends. We're all, you know, his relatives. You know, he treated us well, and we all love him very much.
And, you know, his presidency, to say the least, was controversial. But what he did with his life afterwards earned him a Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his efforts in promoting peace, for his human rights work, for promoting social welfare. Did that give him finally the respectability and the recognition he deserved as a humanitarian?
Well, President Carter should have received the Nobel Peace Prize like the Egyptian president and Israeli prime minister back in 1979. You know, he didn't get it because what I learned is he was not nominated. You know, he deserved that too, together with the other two leaders, you know, from Israel and Egypt. Of course, you know, using the Carter Center as the platform, as the convener, as the tool, President Carter has tirelessly, in the past more than 40 years, you know, fighting for peace and eradicating disease. And he has You said, his 4 years in the office from 1977 to 1981 was controversial, but there's nothing controversial about what he did after the platform. In fact, many of his decisions he made during his term in the White House, we continue to receive dividend from those decisions too.
All right, well, certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences. Professor Yawei Liu, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.